Okay, now this Bachmann locomotive, you saw running on that mixed traffic video, when I got a request to do it by subscriber BR75069, likes this one, Bachmann Collett Goods 060, and it's the number 2253 in BR black, and very lightly weathered. We'll get a closer look when we get around. Again, one sad thing is that there's only one of these preserved, it says on the back here. Again, brief history, Collett Goods. There's only one loco has been preserved, 3205, and it's located on the South Devon Railway. I think it lived on the West Somerset at first, but now it lives on the South Devon Railway. When my auntie went down to Devon, I think it was just this year or last year, I can't really remember, but they had a trip. She had a trip on the South Devon Railway and was pulled by the Collett, which is in Green. Was it Great Western Green, I think, or BR? But she was pulled by that one. Again, from Buckfastleigh to Totnes via Staverton. Again, when I went to Devon back in about 99 or 2000 or something like that, about 7 years ago, I didn't go on that one. I went near it, but I went on the Paignton and Dartmouth Railway. They're pretty close together, them two, South Devon and Paignton and Dartmouth. The Paignton and Dartmouth's on the coast, and the South Devon's just sort of further west or sort of northwest inland. So let's get this collet open. It's one of my best runners, this one. She always runs pretty well. Pretty lightweight as well. There's not really much weight to her. Again, we can just definitely see the weatherness there, but it's very light. In fact, I've read that some people say that that the weatherness is so light that some have actually put it down that it isn't weathered, but it definitely is, just very, very light. Yeah, I mean, I've got a number of weathered locos. You know, I've got that heavily weathered 9F and one locomotive similar design, that Great Western 062 tank, and that one's in BR black weathered as well. Again, weatherness does look really smart. Again, this one still looks good, even though it's only very light. This is known as the Great Western Churchward Tender. Again, you know, Collett's came with different size tenders. These lower Churchward ones, some came with larger ones as well. The one's the same height as the locomotive itself. It's gonna. She isn't. It's a little bit fair weight to her, but not much. She can't really pull that much. But she does run really well. She's a really smart little loco. So they're quite fairly good detail in the cab. Again, this is the locomotive where you had to put these rods on. It was, you know, as it brake was well, which fit into the holes just by the brakes there, of course. The same on the tender. But I just could not get these ones in for some very strange and stupid reason. The holes, and in fact the tiny little cylinder shapes, well, tiny cylinders which, you know, again I can't do clear close-ups with this camera, but which fit into the holes. You know, of course, what they fix into. Some were bigger than the others, and they just would not fit in the holes. They were far too big. So I sort of ran her without them for a while, but then I decided to have another go, and I just sort of had really no choice but to sort of snip off the edges of some of those and stick them on with glue. But they're on perfectly now. They're rock solid on. It was just annoying that, you know, that they wouldn't even go on in the first place. Again, these of course were useful branch line locomotives. Like I did a video with that Cadbury Castle locomotive in the Western Pullman set. I called it Recreating Worcester to Paddington Express. On the actual Worcester to Paddington route, there was a gradient somewhere it was just below the West Midlands, something like that, where they required two heading, double heading, and I saw this on a DVD of mine, which is one of those Steam DVDs over there. I've got a large collection just behind the Titanic model there. And a castle class locomotive called Thornbury Castle is pulling the Cathedrals Express. Well, you know, from Worcester to Paddington, of course, Cathedrals Express, and they attach a black Collett 060, just like this one, on the inside to double head up the gradient. Again, they've got a great shot of that. Looks fantastic as they battle their way up. Full steam ahead. Again, Bachmann's, I think towards the end of this year, is bringing out another Collett model. I might get this other one because it's one in GWR green. You know, I'd like to a Great Western loco in BR black and GWR green. And I'm pretty sure 3205 on the South Devon is in GWR green. Looks very smart. Again, on the tender, of course. It's the water tank under there, the coal. The coal looks pretty well, yep, and the scoop. Water scoop under there. That's a good view of it there, looks good. Let's call it Goods 2253. It's a good versatile loco. Again, really well, ideally suited, for lighter coach. Well, I mostly have a pulling sort of quite light or medium-sized goods trains. I think she sort of prefers pulling goods trains more. Well, in that mixed traffic video, you saw her pulling a rake of smart-looking Great Western coaches. She looks good with them as well, but I mostly have her pulling freight.